Alchemy, right? That's how I
Sacred
say it.
Sensual. Sacred
Oh,
Sensual
duh.
Alchemy.
You
That's
say it
okay.
correctly. Sacred Sensual Alchemy. And you all know me. I'm Angela Skirtu. I open bedroom doors. And so we're here to talk to you all about, well, some of my book, right? A little bit of that. But then also just about sexual health in general, because, that's what we do. We love to learn about sexual health and wellness. So, Sadie,
Absolutely.
how have you been since the last I saw you?
So good. Oh my gosh. I had so much fun during our last conversation and I've been so looking forward to this. So yay. Yay, yay, yay. But yeah, no, things are great. Things are great. How about you?
Oh my gosh, so great, so great. I actually was at a National Speaker Association meeting at my local chapter this morning, and
Well,
I learned so much today. Like they talked all about like being a lot of like showing a lot of gratitude in your posts. So, I don't know, you're on social media like I am too. And I didn't realize how like often I'm not probably showing gratitude and just thanking people. Like this is so amazing that you're doing this, or when you have helpers along the way, like it was an amazing reminder of like, man, I need to be thanking people constantly for all the cool things they do. Like you, thank you for doing this
oh,
with me. This is your time and energy.
yeah.
And like, I don't know. So it's
Right.
really powerful.
That is really crazy. I've got full body chills right now because that's exactly what I was going to bring into this conversation was gratitude and generosity. So like that's really big for me today as well and recently, but like what?
No. Okay. Well, now that's
Wow.
so interesting. Tell me, what were you thinking about gratitude and generosity?
Okay, so it's many themes that seem to be coming in, but one of the things, just like being as it pertains to this, really what I wanted to bring into this conversation was gratitude for our partners, for our experiences, gratitude for just being able to connect with another human being. You know, a lot of times we'll be up in our heads or we'll be somewhere else and just forget like how freaking precious this being in front of us is, right? And just like, whoa, and
You're
how
talking about
precious.
like a sexual partner or an
Yeah,
intimate partner
yeah,
in some
yeah,
way. Okay.
yeah, yeah. Right? I mean, we can just be like in our own thing, but just how beautiful and amazing is it to get to actually physically connect with another person, and then the gratitude for just our bodies, right? I'm feeling a lot of gratitude for my body and the sensuality of my body and just like, oh, and when we're really in that place and really just giving and touching with gratitude and with generosity and love and receiving with gratitude as well. Because I know we can, again, be in our heads, be in resentment, be in like, oh, I don't know if this is the thing. I mean, we can just be in all this sort of stuff. So just when you just really bring it down to gratitude, I mean, just right, that really has opened up my experience in so many ways when I just was like, really cherishing the person in front of me and just bringing it to that level and just like, oh, it's gorgeous, gorgeous way to connect.
Sadie, you are so spot on. Like, I think gratitude changes sexual experiences entirely.
Yeah,
Like one
yeah.
thing so I'm going to bring in a term, whether people like it or not, penis worship. And I recently heard of this term. Oh, you're
I
excited.
love
Okay,
it. I
cool. Because I'm
love it.
like,
Yes, yes, yes.
some of my penis videos, about like how to work with the penis, how to make friends with the penis, are all about like showing gratitude to just be present with it. Like I have this video on YouTube. You guys can find it somewhere else, but it's like how to make friends with a penis. And I speak about like connecting deeply with the person, like seeing the penis as an extension of this partner. If you're with a penis owner partner, right? Like, because you can be with
Yeah,
whomever. But
right.
if your partner owns a penis, you're not just focused on the penis, but you're focused on them and being grateful for them for being in this experience with you. And when you make love to a penis with like penis worship in mind, like it changes the ball game. I mean, like you're just like, you're kissing, you're making love to it. You're like, I don't know, like putting it on your cheek. You're
Yeah,
just like grateful to be there. Like, oh my gosh, I'm just so here with you. And we're sharing this moment. Like, as you were talking, I was like, just like this sharing of like connection. So like, you're totally speaking my language. What are your
mhm.
thoughts? I'm all over the
Right.
place, literally.
Awesome. No, that's gorgeous. And that's what it is. It's like total reverence for me. And yes,
Mhm.
it's absolutely penis worship because I just like get into it, right? And it's a worship of the sacred masculine, right? And just
Mhm.
this expression of the masculine that's just so beautiful. So yes, I love that you're bringing that in. Gorgeous, gorgeous. And then the other, what would we call this? Vulva worship, right?
Yeah.
Just like, and allowing myself to receive that and allowing the really connecting with the other person because men and I'm saying men because I'm hetero and I connect with men when they're offering this to me I can feel like just how into it they are, right? And just allowing
Yeah.
that to move through me, allowing that instead of like, oh gosh, does everything smell okay? Is everything good? Because again, we can be up in our
Mhm.
heads, but just like obviously they're loving the heck out of it, right? So just allow myself to receive that generosity and
Mhm.
that energy and that appreciation and devotion and their gratitude for their experience. I mean, it's just I'm so thrilled that we are both connected to this gratitude this morning. Like, what a trip! What a trip! Well, morning for me, afternoon for you.
Yeah, it's afternoon for me, but yes, like there's just I'm just so grateful you're there and you're giving me this pleasure and that you're so like it's interesting. So I've watched a lot of different videos about like how to give blowjob, how to receive oral sex, all that stuff, right? And it's interesting that one of the number one tips they talk about is your enthusiasm. The
Oh
energy
yeah,
you bring when
right,
you do
right,
it.
right.
Like it's not as much about techniques as it's about like being grateful to be there. And so I'd say
Yeah,
in the receiving aspect, it's the same way. If somebody is going down on me, like their energy and their excitement about, oh my gosh, I'm
right.
down here and I just get to like take you in and drink you in some way. Like that's the sexy part for me. But to your
Yeah.
point, Sadie, and like I will, if you don't mind, like a little shameless plug.
Do it, do it, do
This
it.
is
Yeah,
what
yeah,
I
yeah.
talk about in the book. When you struggle to receive sexual energy and like to be able to receive that generosity, usually there's a way that you are internally like treating yourself bad. Like, I'm not deserving, I'm not worthy, or like, I'm so, like, as you mentioned, I smell, or any of those negative messages prevent you from receiving the love and that generosity that like you like that makes sex amazing. And I think it really takes things to the whole nother level, really.
Yeah, and this is part of, for me, that the way that we do one thing tends to be the way we do everything. If we're not able
Mhm.
to receive in this kind of an experience, it's really showing how we're not able to receive in the rest of our experience, receive abundance and nourishment and beauty and
Mhm.
love from the universe and from life, right? So if we're very shut down around our
Yeah.
sexuality, and that for me is just an indicator of, everything else. Like where else is that showing up in your life? And when we start working with ourselves, for me, the spiritual path, sexuality is the way in. And that's because this is a great indicator, a great example. If we're not able to receive pleasure, if we're disconnected from our body, that's showing the rest of our experience. It's a really good indicator that we're disconnected in many ways and not receiving in many ways. So when we start to open that up for ourselves, it starts to spread throughout our lives, right? And other areas start
Mhm.
opening up for us, and then we see we're able to receive pleasure in a number of different ways, right? When we start, and the gratitude piece, right? If we're in gratitude for this experience, that will spread out too, and we notice all these other places where we're in gratitude and can be,
Mhm.
really in that energy. So beautiful. I love sexuality as the doorway into wholeness in all areas of our lives. So yeah, so
I
beautiful.
always I always talk about sex therapy as life therapy, right? Like you said, it's like
Yeah,
the doorway into other
yeah,
parts of our life, right?
yeah,
So people will start seeing me because they have like desire discrepancy or they're having erectile dysfunction or some sexual problem. But when we work together, it always transfers into other parts of life. Like I'm a couples therapist too, right? And so I'm always looking at, okay, to your point, like where is this showing up in other ways? Where are you treating yourself bad here or there? Because
yeah,
like these self abuse monologues impact our ability to receive pleasure and even be present for it. Like
yeah,
I have clients who are dissociating through sex because of ways
yeah,
they're treating different parts of their body. Like I had this one client, for example, who had pretty severe body dysmorphia around her tummy. to the point that if her husband even touched it, like she would completely go into a shame spiral and she couldn't be sexual anymore. And like for any listeners in who are like trying to figure out like where do I land and what should I be looking for? I want you to look for the ways that you're treating yourself poorly or even abusively, like ways you're putting yourself down or criticizing yourself. And that doesn't, it can be sexual, but like I said, to Sadie's point, it can be other areas of life too. Like where do you say, I'm just not good at this or I'm bad at this? Like these are all mental blocks that prevent you from growing and experiencing this abundant love, essentially. Are you seeing like where do you see it like and from your practice, where do you see people struggling with this in terms of like their ability to receive pleasure, whether it's sex or otherwise?
Well, yeah, I mean, exactly. It just shows up in so many ways, not recognizing the abundance in their life, not recognizing connection, um, not taking care of themselves, not doing the things that truly
Mhm.
light them up and turn them on, doing a lot of people pleasing, right? It's very outward focused.
Mhm.
Not even knowing what brings them pleasure, right? In areas of their life, just really
Absolutely.
disconnected from the truth of who they are and um having just shut it down so much, right? And yeah, it's really and it's a lack of self-love and self-worth, right? Not feeling worthy of receiving and not feeling worthy of pleasure. A lot
Mhm.
of guilt and shame, especially around sexuality, right? The guilt
Mhm.
and shame is a really big piece in this, dogmatic religious society we've grown up in. Um, so yeah, it shows up in many areas. And um, I'm thinking of the giving receiving piece too. A lot of people are like, oh, I just like to give. I like to give.
Mhm.
Let's look at that maybe, it sounds nice, but I think there's other things going on here because it's really challenging for them to receive. It's easier to be the
Mhm.
doer and the giver and to be that people pleaser to kind of take the focus off themselves a little bit in some way. And it's so and of course some people are more about giving and then receiving, but I do think there's something there to look at really and explore for ourselves because a lot of people have a hard time receiving. And what happens when you get two givers together, then it's just,
Oh, yeah. I can
that's
see
a
that being
thing.
a problem. Yeah,
Yeah, it
actually,
is.
one thing you mentioned earlier was this sort of like when you ask them what brings you pleasure and they don't know. I have females who I ask that all the time. Like I will ask, like what brings you excitement or sexual interest or what feels good to you or what are you interested in trying? I talk about like creative sexuality or like stepping outside of the box. We talked about that in our last get together. And
Yeah,
it was so interesting because there's so many women who are like, I don't know. And I think it comes from they never give themselves permission to want. Like they don't give themselves
yeah,
permission to even
yeah,
have pleasure. So like to your point that like the giver, like I'm about giving, it's not about me, it's about them. Well,
yeah,
to what degree do you give back to yourself? Have you
yeah,
ever allowed yourself to receive like even example a compliment. So even in verbal
yeah,
kindness, if somebody
yeah,
compliments you, do you take it and really receive it and hear it? Or do you find yourself like dismissing it? Nope, I can't take that. Nope, that's not me. No, it's not. Like that can be a first indicator that you really struggle with receiving love or pleasure if you can't even receive a compliment. Now, of course, not like one of those negative ones where somebody's kind of like icily putting you down. There's that
yeah,
compliment, but I'm talking about like a genuine, you're amazing. I'm so grateful for what you're doing. And, like some people can't take that or they'll just kind of
yeah.
close off.
Right. Yeah, for sure, for sure. And again, other areas where in your life you're experiencing lack, right? Where's that showing up in your life? And yeah, that's such a big thing for people. I've seen it so much, so much. Denying themselves too. The denial
Mhm.
of the pleasure, right?
How do they deny it? Where do you sing in that area?
Mm, just okay, the thing that just came through to me was like somebody wants to go on vacation really bad. They haven't had a vacation for quite a while, but there's all these reasons
Mhm.
why it can't happen, right? So they deny themselves pleasure, they deny themselves, what would really bring them joy and what they really want, because they've got to make more money, they've got to do this, they've got to, don't have the time, but just all these excuses that come up for why we don't really take care of ourselves and nourish ourselves and do the things that would truly bring us joy. So yeah, and that shows up in sexuality a lot too, right? People that I'm thinking of, just well, that's getting into a whole big can of worms, but
That's all
relationships that
right.
are
We've got
having,
time for
I
worms.
know, right? Well, right, relationships that are really having challenges or have just a lot of disconnect, and one of the
Mhm.
partners is really not advocating for themselves, right? And the experiences and the pleasure that they would like to receive. So, um, yeah, yeah, which is your expertise, right?
It is. It's what I
Yeah,
do. And, I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
I still think it goes back to, if you don't give yourself permission to have pleasure, how do you advocate for yourself? How do you ask for things you want or need or would like if you don't even give yourself permission to like things, right?
yeah,
And so my
yeah,
whole job is like teaching people to have to move their relationship with sex from a more negative or shameful one to a more neutral one so that they can then explore. But what's interesting is once they get into the neutral space, it doesn't suddenly fix it. They then have a new journey of learning, like, how could sex be fun? Or how could sex be for me? Or how could I allow myself to receive some pleasure? And what kind of pleasure would be for me? And this is where a lot of my females do really struggle, is some of the things that they find pleasurable aren't what they see on the TV and the movie screens, right? It's like,
right.
they don't do that there. Am I strange? And then that can create new
Mhm,
shame spirals,
mhm,
right? So I'm like, I
yeah,
really try to strip away any idea that like it has to look a certain way, that like you can find sexy exactly what you find sexy. So I'm going to give you an example of a weird one that I
mhm,
like, actually, in my own
yeah,
like flirtation style. So me and my partner are overthinkers. It's just like, as a therapist, it's my job to overthink, and he overthinks for
right,
his reasons, right? But so when we moved into this house, I was packing and he was packing, and he goes, Angela, I have an idea. And I was like, Okay, what's your idea? He said, I just learned about this cool way to pack where there's different color coordination. Like basically, you have a color for each level of the house. And I think it'd be really cool if you came up with an overcomplicated way for why we do like the colors on the different floors. And I was like, challenge accepted. And this
I
is this
can
is
do
our
that.
flirtation banter, by the way. And
Love
so
it,
then
love it.
I overthought for a while, and I was like, oh, I got it. And so I went back to him, and I was like, I'll tell you what we're gonna do, because we had red, yellow, and green. And I said, we're gonna do green for the bottom because it means earth. Like we're closest to the ground. We're gonna do
Right,
yellow for
right,
the
right.
middle, and red's gonna be for the top because it's the hottest. And I was like, does that work? And he's like, oh, that's so hot. And then we made out. The point is, I show that story because everybody thinks sexuality has to look like what they see in the movies. And that's
Right,
us with a playful intellectual banter. Some people would be like, I don't know that that's sexy at all, but
right,
it's
but
sexy for us. And
it is,
I
it's
want
your
people to
language.
know,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
exactly. I
yeah,
want you to find sexuality in your language, in your style. If it's intellectual overthinking, cool, do that. If it's weird goofiness where you shoot his penis at like zombies, do it. I don't care what you do. I just want you to find your joy sexually.
love it. I love it. Oh my
Have you ever
gosh.
shot a penis at zombies? Because it's very fun.
No, that is great. I wasn't quite ready for that. I'm like, oh my God, some
It's your
interesting
next
visuals coming
idea.
in. I love it. I love that.
Yeah,
I
you can
love
use it
that.
in the mic, like sing into it. I mean, whatever makes you happy.
Awesome. Yes. Oh, play, have fun, right?
Mhm.
Play, play, play. I know we take ourselves way too freaking seriously around sexuality. Holy crap. I mean, I just remember my favorite times are just laughing, laughing about whatever, it just, yeah, it doesn't have to be all super sensual, sexy, graceful, like in the movie, right? It's like, no, enjoy, play, have fun, laugh,
Mhm.
joke around and just, yeah, lighten up.
I think, well, because I think play is close to pleasure, right? Like to
Yeah,
play requires you to have access to pleasure. So if you're the kind of person who constantly shuts down pleasure in your life, then you're going to struggle with playing. There are direct
absolutely.
links to
Yeah.
sex and play.
Yeah.
But if you can't
Beautiful.
even have fun like that, then how in the world, how in the world are you going to shoot your partner's penis at fake zombies? You can't do
Right?
it.
This is
I'm just telling you,
awesome.
try it with your next partner. Totally worth it. They'll be a little thrown off,
They
but
might.
they'll
They
also
might.
be
They might.
grateful that you're playing with their dick. So it's fine.
Oh my God. This is awesome. Yay.
Clearly, I'm in a goofy mood today, but those are good
This
days.
is beautiful, right? Yeah, it's been a fun, like open-hearted day today for sure. I wanted to ask you, okay, this kind of ties in with what, because I took notes last time around the book after reading the book. Um, so this kind of plays into that a little bit. Well, okay, people who keep their sexual expectations too high will end up being constantly disappointed with their lives. Did I
Mhm.
quote that correctly? I put it in quotation marks. So I think
Wait,
I
so
wanted to,
say it again so I can really
yeah,
hear what I said.
right. People who keep their sexual expectations up too high will end up constantly disappointed with their lives. Maybe it's their with their sex lives. Oh my God. Okay. It was
Okay,
kind of
that's
like under
okay.
this, that's great with their sex lives. So
Mhm,
I think that really ties into this playing thing, and just like being really kind of rigid about it all and really limited. And I have fallen prey to this where, yeah, I have these expectations of like, oh, I want this deep spiritual connection or something. And it ends up being kind of a little ho hum. And then I'm just like, oh, well, what was that? Right.
mhm,
So, but yeah, and then you go on to say, create a safe environment to fail. Or
yeah,
another way, like just create a safe. Okay, it says make conscious choices about how to enjoy a variety of sexual experiences, whether they are perfect or not. And that really
yeah,
hit home for me because, again, and then it ties into this generosity or gratitude piece, like
yeah,
really just being in gratitude for the connection and for the intimacy and for the experience and for the other person and for that connection and the touch, right? And not to have,
mhm,
because there's so many different factors. You can be with somebody one day and have this like mind-blowing, like wow,
mhm,
connected, like spiritual experience. And then the next time it's just like you don't go there, but you're like, what
mhm.
happened? Oh my God, did I do something wrong? What's wrong with them? What our energies weird, and get all like spun out on it. So I just thought it was
Absolutely.
important with the gratitude piece. I wanted to touch on that and just kind of,
Mhm,
shift it for us and yeah, and not have those expectations be unrealistic, and that also plays into the movie, thing. I know we talked about this last time as well because that was up, but yeah, so I wanted to bring that into the conversation today because it's just so freaking important,
I have a story to share about it, and it's so
Great.
I'm married now, but I divorced about somewhere in the ballpark of 6 or 7 years ago. Okay. So when I was divorced, of course, you date, you put yourself out there again and you explore. And I was grateful. I got to say, I was really grateful to be a single sex therapist who had some of these tools because I
Right?
had a partner at the time who we knew we had made this plan to be sexual in some way, shape, or form. We knew we wanted, and like, how you like talk it up in your head and you're super excited and you've like texted, maybe you've sexted. So we've definitely done a little bit of that. And then the day of, this person felt kind of like they weren't like we had built it up, like, that perfectionism where it's like, oh, it's going to be, but oh, I'm not. And they just weren't feeling that way. Like they were kind of having a rough day at work. And
Yeah.
and so they told me, they were like, hey, I don't mean, and they felt, I could just tell that they were like all down on themselves for this.
Mhm.
And so what I told them was, hey, no pressure. we could we could massage each other. We could just hang and cuddle naked. Like I'm really open. Like I know we talked about a lot of stuff, but what we do is really our choice. And I just want to have
Yeah.
fun and see you. Like that's it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it
Yeah. Yeah.
was so interesting because then they came and, I mean, that's what we did. We got naked, we cuddled, we chatted every now and
Mhm.
then we'd
Yeah.
kiss. And it did turn into a really hot
Yeah.
experience. but because there really was no pressure. It really was a safe environment. There was not like whether I had sex that day or not did not matter. What mattered to
Right.
me was that I connected to that person and we had a wonderful time together, whatever that meant. And it was playful and it was like a little talky,
Yeah.
a little flirty, a little kissy, then a little like, yeah, let's just talk about life. And it was such a cool, spiritual, free-flowing experience, but it came from safety and no pressure. None of that perfectionistic, we have to do all this or it's not going to be good. It was like, we'll have fun with whatever we got. And that has been my
Right.
philosophy for many years, and it has served me well.
Yeah, yeah, we really need to, yeah, hold space, release expectations, and
Mhm.
discuss, right? And take the pressure off and feeling confident in having those conversations and just like that's a key piece, right? Because a lot of that will just get held in the head, right? And just like, "Ugh." And then you try to perform or you try to, connect and it's you're in your head worrying and it's a big old shit show.
Well, and all that stuff takes you right out of the sexual experience, right?
Exactly,
You're like, you're
exactly.
there,
Yeah,
but you're not because you're overthinking it. And that's that perfectionist thinking. I mean it. It
absolutely.
does ruin a lot of sex lives unnecessarily just by putting too much pressure on it. And so, yeah, I really advocate for have multi-layered sexual acts and experiences that are available to do. I even have this game that I'll put together for my dinner with a sex therapist event where I have people make jars, like a G jar, a PG jar, a PG-13, an R, and an X jar. Or if they don't like the movie rating systems, it can be like a 1 to 7. Because whatever works, I don't care. I just want you to be
Right,
happy,
right, right.
right? But
Yeah.
so that layering of like, this is a sex act at a 1 for me, or this is a sex act at a 3 for me. One, it gets them having more consent language with each other, but two, it gets them actually checking in. Where am I at today? What am I open to? So I want to be intimate, but this is the kind of intimacy I can do when I'm brain dead, for example. Whereas when I'm a little more energetic, I could be open to this level of intimacy. And so that playful little game is just it's a great conversation starter, but it also gives people awareness that there's so many levels to sexuality and ways to be intimate that can be positive. That can be penetrative sex or P and V is what they call it, but it doesn't have to be. And also, like some of the movie style sex really doesn't represent people who aren't, I mean, heteronormative, right? Like there's a variety of couple styles, shapes, and sizes. And
Yeah.
so having these conversations and just getting on the same page is a way, like however you identify whoever you are, I want y'all to have the good sex.
Right. I love that. I love the just getting clear and moving through that exercise of like coming up with a variety of different things that are not just the penetrative experience, right? Because so many that's what people just go to. So I
Mhm.
love that. I'm adopting that one for sure. That's beautiful. Nice.
Well,
Nice.
cool. We're gonna have great sex. Or at least that's what I hope. That's my hope for you too, of
Love
course.
it. Love
Which
it.
Sadie, you bring in a lot of like so a lot of people listening and people have heard about tantric sex practices or different ways to create you create like the spiritual connection, right? There's a little bit about like how do you create a more spiritual sexual experience. So for people listening and who'd be curious about like what does that look like? I'm curious, how do you help people create that connection in their sexuality? Or how do you do it personally?
Mhm. Right. One is having a spiritual connection already, right? That's very important. A lot of people are disconnected from their own spirituality. So I have a program where it really supports people to find that connection. What is spirituality to you? And and connect with themselves and to see themselves to understand and recognize the divinity within themselves that they are spiritual beings and it's more empowerment being in our power and then from that place of divinity connecting with others and recognizing the divinity within others again it's kind of that gratitude piece like oh my gosh the reverence and amazement at being able to connect with another being like in that way like just to
Mhm.
be able to touch I remember just like the first time I had my first kind of real intimate experience was in drama class in the back we were waiting for some drama practice was happening and I was just holding this person's head and petting their head right and it was just so there was just such reverence and just such like, oh my gosh, it was so sensual, so beautiful. I just felt like, I don't know, it was a very special moment for me, and I remember it always. And that's where I kind of, continued on in my journey, having experiences like that, and just being in reverence for this connection and this body in front of me, and just recognizing how glorious that was, right? So for
Wow.
me, that's part of the spiritual connection, is the gratitude and reverence for the experience and for the others, these bodies that we're in, right?
Mhm.
But a lot, like, also bringing our energy together, through breath work and visualization when we're in union, or just sitting back to back and breathing together. And there's different ways that you can align your frequencies and your energies that really help to open you up to a bigger experience of your sexual energy and the energy that you're generating together. Getting intentional and offering that energy up for, whatever. I was going to say a higher purpose, but that's not exactly what I'm looking for. To create our reality, right? Sex magic,
Yeah.
but
Hmm.
just, yeah, getting, yeah, a lot of reverence for our sexual energy, right? And the power of it, and that we are sexual beings, right? And that is a very, to me, that's a very spiritual experience and a very spiritual understanding. So I think it is a real strengthening of our own spiritual connection ourselves, and then bringing that into the relationship or into the connection, right? It doesn't have to be a relationship. So into the connection. Yeah. Does that answer your
No, you're good.
question?
I have a story. I wanted to make sure you had a chance to finish because I had a
Yeah.
story similar, but it actually is related to death. My
Right.
father-in-law passed away last year, but in the hospital while we were, there's this time where they're spending in the hospital bed. I felt this pull to like rub his head, because I realized like even as somebody's passing, they're still here. He was still here with us, and I
Yeah.
wanted to feel that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wanted him to know that he wasn't alone. But I did feel this sort of like tender connection towards
Mhm.
him, and towards like as he's passing, like I just want you to gingerly feel loved and valued during this time. And I think in the way that people are being intimate and sexual, there can be so much of a rush and so much of a, I have to hit this step and this step that they miss. So you call it reverence, and for spiritual people, that is the perfect term. For people who are a little less spiritual, the term is presence. And I
Presence.
think they're
Exactly.
very similar, but I want to
Yeah.
like
It's the same.
represent
Right.
different things, right? So like reverence
Mhm.
or presence or being connected in that space is just so valuable. And like, well, and the reason I'm putting that language out there is because I want people to know that it's like it's an energy connection, right? So I'll tell a little history. I have recently becoming more connected and aware of my spiritual connection in this world, but for the
Mhm.
longest time I was like a little terrified of it because I had some religious trauma I was working through, right? And so like I was very avoidant of any sort of spiritual language in my 20s and 30s as a result, like just terrified, right? And it's interesting now in my 40s as I'm aging and I'm seeing there's a spiritual component to sex and sexuality. There are moments where I feel a transcendence with my partner where like
Mhm.
I don't
Yeah.
understand, but it feels otherworldly in some ways. But could I touch that? No. Can I explain what's happening other than I think it's deep presence or reverence, as you say, to like your body and your mind and being in your sensory experience, or like sometimes I refer to it as an animal instinct brain where you're just like deep
Mhm.
in like in your
Yeah.
instincts. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what your thoughts. I'm sorry, I went all
No,
over there, but
absolutely. No, another really important word that is not, you know, intention, right? I
right,
think, again,
right.
like, touching with such intention and just being there. It is the presence and the
Mhm.
intention of just, like, really, and yeah, when we can bring it all down and just really be in our
Yeah.
body, right? And then,
Mhm.
and along those lines, the receiving, right? The
Yeah.
really receiving. And for me, as the feminine, just receiving the masculine into my body in just the
Mhm.
deepest way. What is the, how can I relax into it more and more and more? And how can I receive and receive and receive. And the more that when I get very intentional and just
Yeah.
keep like, how deeply can I take this in? How deeply can I receive the masculine? And oh my gosh, it turns into this full body thing that I'm sharing with my partner and vice
Mhm.
versa. And they're just, penetrating with the depth of their being, right? So
There's literal shared space. You're
it's
sharing
deep,
space.
deep, deep in, right? And it can be just
Mhm.
very heart connected and just like, oh, like, oh my gosh.
Mhm. I think
So,
when people say, "I don't know where your body ended and my body began," right? Like your
right?
bodies feel so
Exactly.
entwined and connected that you're
Yeah.
like, you're here, but you're not here, and you're at a bigger and that's what I'm saying. So it's funny, I can't use non-spiritual words without describing it. It's transcendent. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you're in complete reverie and you are deeply connected with your mind body. And that is really what I'm
Yeah.
trying to create. Like, what's interesting is my book is for overthinkers, right? Like those people who like think and cognitively overdo this or that or like criticize. It's like, no, 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 get out of that space, get completely neutral, and then relearn your body as it
Yeah.
is, as it was naturally meant to be. And
Yeah.
what's neat and exciting about it is it's very animal instinctual. It's very like,
Yes.
I don't know, like hard to even describe it. Like your body kind of learns to move and learns what it likes, and you're giving it full permission to be itself. To
Yeah.
me, gosh,
Uh,
it's beautiful.
it's a very juicy
I know, we're gonna
conversation.
get an
I'm
orgasm
like,
just talking about this.
seriously, I'm just like,
I'm like,
wow.
"Woo, okay, hold on, all right, calm it down." But that you when
Sexy
we talk
stuff.
and we both feel that, that's us pulling up
Yeah.
sense memories from being in that space before.
Yeah, 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 absolutely, absolutely, and delicious. Yeah, so and that's not something, that's something that you cultivate, right? And
Yeah,
it's a practice. You have to practice working on this, and you have to recognize what's getting in the way of that kind of an experience for you. What are your belief
yeah.
systems? What are you holding in your body? Where's that tension? Where's all the
Mhm.
no's getting in the way? So it's not like you just step into this, right? It's a journey and it's a practice and it's a dedication and a devotion to really opening this up. And this is why for me, this is, a spiritual path, life journey, whatever. It's a holistic, it's body, mind, spirit, this journey that we go
Mhm.
on when we start, getting into our sexuality and opening that up for ourselves. It's not a one and done. So I just
Yeah.
want to be
It's an
clear for
evolution
people.
across
It
time, right?
it really is, it really
Yeah.
is, and, it's a journey, and it's an exploration and self-reflection, so it's, yeah, 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 I'm so passionate about it, I love it, because I know
I
where I've
love it.
gone from my initial experiences to where I am now, and it's just like, ooh, and it continues to open up and unfold and unfurl and just like,
Mhm.
ooh,
Yeah.
yum.
Well, on that note, Sadie, we've been talking for a while, so I think this could probably be a good time for us to put in our plugs and then finish
Okay.
up the live stream, if that's okay. Would you tell all of our audience members who you are, where to find you, all links that you want to share?
Wonderful. Yes. My name's Sadie, and I'm the founder of Sacred Sensual Alchemy. And you can find my YouTube channel where I get into just so much more about all of what we're talking here. And definitely about the spiritual path, right? And how it pertains to sexuality, right? I just finished up, or I'm working on this new series called The Archangels of Sacred Sexuality.
Hmm,
I just love
interesting.
that. It kind of flies in the face of what people think about with archangels, right? So, diving into topics like that. Really interesting. So yeah, you can find me on YouTube. My website is sacredsensualalchemy.com. And I offer energy healing sessions, sound healing, one-on-one guidance sessions, programs, and pilgrimages to sacred sites on the planet to really, really do some deep dive transformational work and really open to the energy of those sacred sites. It's super powerful. I have tons of resources there also to support you on your journey and open up your spiritual path. If this is something, sacred sexuality speaks to you, check out those lots of free resources. And I have community events, monthly events, well, sacred sexuality discussion group, sensual dance meditation to really get into our bodies and connect deeper in that way. And then a group energy healing session, which is excellent for people who are new to energy healing and want to try it out and see what it's all about. And it's really focusing on the sacral chakra, which is clearing a lot of these energies that can be getting in the way of our healthy sexual energy flow, our passion, our purpose, our vitality, our life force, our creative energy. So very powerful session. Yeah, I think that's it. So yay.
Well, and then for anybody who wants to find me, I actually just finally have my new website updated. So it's openbedroomdoors.com. And I have my book on it. It's the hub, right? So I have my books. I have an event dinner with a sex therapist that I do monthly where we talk about different topics about sex. And my goal is to help couples who are in the friend zone normalize conversations about sex. So please like and subscribe, submit any comments or questions below, and we'll try to answer them. And then also, thank you so much for joining me. I'm Angela Skirtu, and I open bedroom doors.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. It's been awesome. Thank you, Angela. Bye.
As always, it's a pleasure.